In a speech this evening, our own homegrown stochastic terrorist Donald Trump praised Hamas and Hezbollah while disparaging Israel, just days after Israel suffered its worst terrorist attack in its history. This is Law and Society. If you're here, please like and subscribe, and let's discuss. Donald Trump's actions are wholly honed in on getting attention for him. After Donald Trump praised the terrorist group that broke into Israel and mercilessly killed children, families, and civilians and people who were at a dance party, Donald Trump goes out and says that Israel didn't have his back, and he praises the coordination and the smartness of these terrorists who are currently terrorizing one of America's strongest allies, Israel. Of course, he wanted to say it to stay relevant. He wanted to stay in the news. He wanted to have an impact. But as every other time before, Donald Trump's impact is socially destructive. It is emboldening terrorists and dictators, whether that be domestic or foreign. He wants to line himself up to authoritarian leaders and dictators. He wants to encourage acts of terrorism, both in the United States, and after tonight, it's clear that he thinks it's very smart to do so upon our allies as well. So the impact that this has is that it emboldens anti-Semites and white supremacists domestically. It solidifies his support of the people in our country who have similar ideologies, who are anti-Semites, who are anti-establishment in a terrorist sense of the word, not anti-establishment in a political sense of the word. It's not political anymore when you are providing aid and comfort to terrorists. It is no longer free speech when you are inciting them and goading them into doing things that are violent, into turning it into political violence. And political violence and terrorism are like brothers. It's very difficult to discern between the two. And of course, allies of Hamas and Hezbollah will come out and give whatever rationale that they can. But this isn't a war. This was an act of terrorism, and Israel is retaliating. Donald's saying what he says has no real impact in terms of how the United States supports Israel, because the United States fleet is already in that area, and there's intelligence cooperation with Israelis because Israel is one of America's closest allies. At a time like this, every human being that does not have hate in their hearts, every human being who is not rooting for anarchy, chaos, and the world burning down, I pray that every single one of us can raise our voices to counter the mass terrorism that people like Donald Trump and entities like Hezbollah, Hamas, Hamas. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he called it Hamas in the speech, but it doesn't matter for his people. It's funny, it's it doesn't matter to his support base if it's Hamas, Hummus, or Tabbouleh. It matters that he gets to antagonize a population. He aims to create a divide within America and create environment that is not safe for Jewish people living in the United States. So while it has no hard and fast impact, like calling up people to go and execute Jewish people, but his brand of terrorism, Donald Trump's brand of terrorism, is stochastic. He's a coward, you see. He will never pick up a gun and shoot somebody. He will coerce, persuade, and influence somebody from as far away as he can to do that. So, and that's exactly what he has done here. And it's a disgusting display of just barbarism. And I wanted to come out and talk about it briefly because every one of us needs to be vigilant right now. And we need to remain vigilant for our minority friends. We need to stay vigilant for anybody who is vulnerable, whether that be the Jewish population or whether that be the LGBTQ plus population or whether that be the Palestinian population who are civilians. You know, there are ethical issues that rise out of Israel bombing Hamas, who is housed up in Gaza when there are so many civilians in Gaza. And the whole point of an organization like Hamas to shield themselves with human shields of civilians is how terrorists act. That's how they behave because they're not brave enough to come out on their own. They want to do it in a what is shock and awe terrorist fashion. And that's very much what Donald Trump did on January 6th. That's very much what Donald Trump keeps on riling up and has been riling up for the better part of the last 3 years. So please remain vigilant. Don't take peace for granted at this time. We want peace in this world, but there is so much hatred at this point that we must call the hatred out and we must support everybody around us who is vulnerable, whether that be asylum seekers, refugees, or the different minorities that occupy the same space as everybody else. Because we are, in the end, equal in the eyes of the universe. With that said, thank you so much for being here, and I'll